Dr. Kwabena Duffour and former Deputy Governor of the Bank of Ghana, together with 7 others, have been charged with falsification of accounts, money laundering, fraudulent breach of trust, and willfully causing financial loss to the state. Dr. Kwabena Duffour and Dr. Asiama appeared before the High Court for the first time since they were put on trial for their involvement in the collapse of Unibank. They are standing trial with 7 others, including the son of Dr. Duffour, who, until the collapse of Unibank, was Chief Executive Officer and has also been accused of playing roles in the lead-up to the bank's fold-up. Let's quickly take you through the details of the individuals and charges brought against them specifically. Well, in the collapse of Unibank, 9 persons, as we know now, are standing trial, and it is the Republic versus these 9. I'll go through the names for you. We have Dr. Kwabena Duffour, we have Hoda Holdings Limited, there is Johnson Pandit Asiama, Kwabena Duffour II, that's Kwabena Duffour Jr., Kwabena Duffour's son, Eko Nyaku Dati Dennis, Elsie Dansua Chure, Jeffrey Amon, Benjamin Ofori, and Kwejo Opoku Oko. So let's take them one person after the other. In terms of Dr. Kwabena Duffour, the first accused person, he is a shareholder of Unibank Ghana Limited, Unibank, and the ultimate beneficial owner of Hoda Holdings Company Limited. Hoda Holdings Limited, the second accused person, is a holding company, which is the organization, of course, but which will be represented by a human being, is a holding company and majority shareholder of Unibank. Let's talk about Johnson Pandit Asiama, who is the former Deputy Governor of the Bank of Ghana. He is the third accused person. He was second Deputy Governor of the Bank of Ghana between April 2016 and January 2018. These are the counts, 16 counts. Count 16, statement of offense, that is dishonesty of receiving contrary to Section 146 of the Criminal Offences Act 1960, that's Act 229, and particulars of offence include Dr. Kwabena Duffour between January 2014 and February 2018 in Accra, in the Greater Accra region, dishonestly received the sum of 663,283,917,019 pesos, knowing it to have been obtained by means of a criminal offence. Count 17, statement of offence as money laundering contrary to Section 1A of the Anti-Money Laundering Act 2008, Act 749. Particulars of offence, it goes Dr. Kwabena Duffour between January 2014 and February 2018 in Accra, in the Greater Accra region, took possession of the sum of 663,283,917.19 pesos, knowing it to be proceeds of crime. And on to count 18, what is a statement of offence? It says dishonestly, and it's talking about Dr. Kwabena Duffour, dishonestly receiving contrary to Section 146 of the Criminal Offences Act 1960. Particulars of offence, Hoda Holdings Limited between January 2014 and February 2018 in Accra, in the Greater Accra region, dishonestly received the sum of 663,283,917.19 pesos, knowing it to have been obtained by means of a criminal offence. On count 29, there is contravention of the Bank of Ghana Act 2002, Act 612, contrary to Section 46H of 67A of the Bank of Ghana Act 2002. This may sound like a lot, but just follow it. We'll get our correspondent to break it down for us. Particulars of offense in this case. It says Johnson Pandit Asiama, in or about September 2016 in Accra, in the Greater Accra region, granted a facility in the sum of 300 million to Universal Merchant Bank for the benefit of Unibank Ghana Limited without satisfying the prescribed conditions set out in the Bank of Ghana Act 2002, Act 612. So as it stands now, these persons have been charged. Our court correspondent, Joseph Akable, joins us on the line with more. Joseph, do run us through the accused persons and how they are alleged to have committed these crimes. I know that we provided some details there, but it is all a lot of figures. So wrap it up together for our viewers. Joseph.
And so first, the charges, as you have indicated, were read against the individuals involved. And so there are two cases. The first case relates to that of Unibank, and the second being that of UT Bank. And so for that involving Unibank, the individual says Johnson Asiama, who is the former deputy governor. There is also Raymond Amanfo, who used to work with the Banking Supervision Department. There's the UT Holdings Company itself, Prince Kofi Amoabeng, and Catherine Johnson and Robert Kwesiama, who are both former workers of the defunct UT Bank. And after the charges that you just stated had been read against them, they asked them to state their plea. All of them pleaded not guilty to the charges against them.
Joseph, I need to just interrupt you quickly. I just want us to, we just started talking about the Unibank case. So let's wrap up with the Unibank case and then we move on to talk about the UT case, if that's okay.
Oh, okay, right. So for the Unibank case, the individuals, there is Kwabena Duffour, there is Kwabena Holdings Limited, there is Johnson Asiama, and then there's Kwabena Duffour the second, who is a former chief operating officer of the defunct bank. Then the other employees of the bank who are caught up in this particular matter, Ekonya Kodazi Dennis, Elsie Dansua Chere, Jeffrey Amon, Benjamin Ofori, and Kojo Opoku Oko. So these are the individuals who were charged, who all pleaded not guilty to the charges against them. For the Unibank case, as many as 67 charges, 58 charges is what was leveled against them. In fact, when the clerk was reading the charges, it took the clerk more than an hour for the charges to be read and their pleas taken. And so for more than an hour, the court was listening. Then the Attorney General presented the facts of the case, explaining that the crimes he alleges these individuals are involved in largely borders on liquidity support that the BOG extended to the bank to assist the bank. And he says it was not managed in a manner that was very befitting, aside from the fact that shareholders took monies that belonged to depositors and created a system where they made it look like a deferred expenditure account. Meanwhile, this was money that he says the shareholders were taking, amounts of about 5.7 billion cedis. And so that was the case that he put before the court.
Okay.
When the defense lawyers had a chance to speak, Dr. Ayine, who represents Dr. Duffour, was the first to speak. He had some concerns about the entire case. His argument was that if someone takes money to court, to the bank, and for some reason the bank just misuses it, he doesn't believe it's a crime. It's rather a civil wrong and a breach of contract between the individual and the bank. And so the individual can take a civil action against the bank, and not the case that the state comes in to say that a crime has been committed, for which reason they have to be punished. And so he was drawing the attention of the court that if the court is minded to do so, they should dismiss the case against the accused person. Then he proceeded to make the application for bail, which the Attorney General did not oppose, except to say that she expects conditions to be fixed such that it compensates the crime, because the money sisters are involved in 5.7 billion cedis. And so the court fixed the bail first at 100 million cedis with 3 sureties. But the lawyers immediately made an application begging the judge that 100 million cedis, requiring 2 people to show landed properties where that amount was very difficult. And so they pleaded with the judge to reduce it. And so the amount was brought down to 60 million cedis with 2 sureties to be justified, requiring that the accused persons deposit their passport as well. So that was by way of the Unibank case.
Okay, and have they satisfied these requirements?
They are still currently engaging the court registrar. They are making calls, frantic efforts, but the indication we are getting is that before the close of business at the court, which will be sometime at 4:30, they should be able to meet the conditions, according to their lawyers.
Right. Well, let's move on to the UT Bank case now then.
And so that case, as I speak to you now, the lawyers are making their argument for the bail to be granted. They are explaining why they believe their clients are entitled to bail. But prior to that, the Attorney General had presented the facts of the case. That issue also relates to the same liquidity support that was extended by the Bank of Ghana to UT Bank. Mr. Mwabe and the other accused persons are Johnson Asiama, there's the UT Holdings, there's Catherine Johnson and Robert Asiama, who are employees of the defunct UT Bank. They all pleaded not guilty to charges. The charges involved in this particular case relates to, there are 42 charges involved in this particular UT Bank case, and all the accused persons pleaded not guilty to the charges leveled against them. And right after the AG had been given opportunity to present the facts of the case, she explained that it was issues of liquidity support that they didn't manage in a prudent manner, aside from the deposited funds that they didn't also handle well, for which reason they have been arraigned before the court on those charges. Their lawyers have been making a case for bail, as I indicated to you. The last defense lawyer is currently on the street as I speak to you, making the case, explaining that their clients have been on police inquiry bail for well over 12 months and have been cooperating with the court. And so if they are granted bail, they have no intention of not showing up in court when they are needed.
These persons who have been charged, all of them, both Unibank and UT Bank, have they all been in court themselves physically?
Yes, they are all present in court. No one was absent at all. What is interesting is that Johnson Asiama, who is a former deputy governor, he has been charged in the two cases. And so while the first case ended that his other colleagues who were charged with him, who were going around trying to meet the conditions of their bail, he was still locked up in the courtroom because of the second case involving the UT Bank case. So he has been seated in the courtroom all throughout, while the others have had their lawyers running around and trying to get people with surety to come in and sign for them to be able to leave the court. He is still in the seat in the courtroom, has been sitting for well over 4 hours, waiting to have proceedings end before he leaves.
Give us a mental picture, Joseph, finally, before you go. How does the court look like? I mean, in both cases, when the previous case was heard and what is being heard right now. Give us a mental picture of how the court looks like.
Courtroom. I mean, if you are familiar with how the court is, it's quite a packed courtroom. All seats have been taken. You have the lawyers who are seated at where the part that is reserved for the lawyers, and the other individuals, journalists, and other persons who are related to the accused persons also have taken a seat. In fact, it's a mood of silence, paying close attention to the charges as they are read out and listening closely to the arguments as the lawyers are putting them across. It's packed to the extent that if you step out and coming back in, getting your slot to resume your seat is very, very difficult. And so you have lots of people who came in all the way from 8 a.m. and they are still seated here in the courtroom due to the interest they have in this particular matter. So it's more of a tense, packed atmosphere with eager ears and eyes from both lawyers and the judge himself, paying close attention to this particular matter, including the journalists who are here to report on the case as well.
And speaking of which, I hope that you don't lose your seat. But you also mentioned the level of interest in this particular case. Of course, it's a public interest case, but we also understand that the judges have barred the lawyers from speaking publicly on this matter.
In fact, it was right at the end of the Unibank case, right after the judge had given his decision on the bail, he just said that there's an issue that he wants to speak about, and it relates to interviews that lawyers in cases grant to the media. He says in this particular case, he's not going to tolerate that, and that should they leave the courtroom and he hears that any of them has granted any interview, he's going to personally report them to the General Legal Counsel for sanctions to be imposed. He actually told the lawyers that he had actually done same in a previous case that he starts over. He says he's not against the journalists coming into the courtroom because he knows that this is a matter of national concern, and if he had the power, he would have allowed cameras in there to capture proceedings. And so the best he can do is that he has asked that the court staff should ensure that documents that journalists need in order to understand the proceedings are readily provided for them once proceedings is over. And so he wants accurate reporting, but he doesn't expect the lawyers to speak to the media. If they speak to the media, said if you have any arguments you want to make, come and argue in court. Don't argue outside.
And the lawyers are okay with this, or do they have any specific concerns?
In fact, right after he had said that, no one commented on the issue. The lawyers, everyone sat down quietly, and they moved on afterwards. No one made any comment either to say that they agree or they disagree. We did try to get some interviews, but they were turned down, and they said they weren't going to speak to us.
Right, Joseph, thank you so much for being there all day throughout, following those court cases for us. Joseph Akable there, our court correspondent, who sat through the case involving involving Unibank, which is over at the moment. What's been heard is a case involving UT Bank, and Dr. Asiama, who is the former governor of the Bank of Ghana, is involved in both cases. And so after the first case, he has had to join in the second case. Joseph is there, who'll bring us updates as and when they're available.